Hi, I'm Jim Latsko. This is the Old Testament Bible Panorama. It was developed by Dr. John R. White, Jr. First of all, we're starting the Old Testament Panorama. So we'll start with Genesis. Genesis chapter 1 is creation. Genesis chapter 2 is special events of creation. Genesis chapter 3 is the temptation and fall of Adam and Eve. 4 is Cain and Abel. 5 is genealogies. 6, 7, and 8 is Noah and the flood. 9 is Noah after the flood. 10 is genealogies. 11 is the Tower of Babel. 12 is the call of Abraham. Abraham lived in Ur of the Chaldees, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers flow into the Persian Gulf. God called Abraham, and he said, if you will go to a land that I showed you, I will make of you a great nation, and will make your name great. So Abraham packed up his bags and went along the Fertile Crescent. Then he stopped off in a place called Haran. Finally, he went down into the Promised Land. Now, Abraham had a problem. He didn't have any children. So he made a deal with his wife Sarah about their handmaid Hagar. He had a son by Hagar whose name was Ishmael, but Ishmael was not the son of promise. Later, he had a son with his wife Sarah, whose name was Isaac, and Isaac was the son of promise. Now, Isaac had twin boys, Jacob and Esau. Esau was not the son of promise, but Jacob was the son of promise. And Jacob had 12 sons. The second from the youngest son, whose name was Joseph, was sold, $sold, into bondage into Egypt. Later, the entire family came down to Egypt, where they lived in the land of Goshen. 400 years later, God called a man whose name was Moses. He said, "Go down, Moses, tell old Pharaoh, let my people go." So Moses went down to Egypt, where he performed all sorts of miracles, which we call the plagues. Finally, Pharaoh let the people go. Moses said, "Come on, folks, let's go." They packed up their bags, and they went through the Red Sea over to Mount Sinai, where they received the 10 Commandments. After that, the people came to Kadesh Barnea, where they sent 12 spies to spy out the land. 2 came back and said, "Yes, we can take the land. Our God is able to give it to us." 10 came back and said, "No, it is a harsh land and it eats people up." The congregation voted no. God said, "Because you voted no, everyone who is 20 years and older will die in the wilderness." And so the people wandered around in the wilderness for about 40 years until everyone that was 20 years and older died. Then they came to the top of Mount Pisgah, where Moses looked into the promised land, and there Moses died. God raised up a young man whose name was Joshua. He led the people through the Jordan River, where he divided the land among the 12 tribes. After that, there was a period of 7 social, spiritual, and economic ups and downs under the judges. After that, the people said, "We don't want any more judges. We want a king." There were 3 kings over the United Kingdom: Saul, David, and Solomon. After Solomon, the kingdom was divided. There were 10 tribes in the north. There were 2 tribes in the south. The 10 tribes in the north were called Israel. The 2 tribes in the south were called Judah. The capital of the 10 tribes was called Samaria. The capital of the 2 tribes was called Jerusalem. In 722 BC, King Shalmaneser came from Assyria. He took the 10 northern tribes into captivity. There they were dispersed among the provinces of Assyria and basically never heard of again. In 606 BC, King Nebuchadnezzar came and took the 2 southern tribes into captivity, back to Babylon, where they were for 70 years. After that, as written in the books of Ezra and Nehemiah, 50,000 Jews rose up. They went back to Jerusalem. There they rebuilt the walls, they rebuilt the houses, reestablished the worship, and that's the chronological end of the Old Testament.